Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here and welcome to B-Ball Breakdown. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. It's an incredible conversation there, especially during the tournament games. Let's look at Wichita State versus Kentucky because it was a real tale of two teams. Wichita State loves to run team-oriented offensive sets that utilize all five guys moving together in harmony, whereas the Kentucky offense is very much two-man game, three-man game with a couple guys standing around. It was effective all the way to the end of the game where they were able to win, but it was definitely more interesting as a coach to watch what Wichita State was doing on the offensive end. You can't afford to have silly mistakes in the tournament, and this one was a doozy. After an offensive foul, the inbounder cannot move when passing it in. Normally the ref will even tell you that, but it's not clear that happened. After receiving the ball, he takes 2 steps before passing. The ref must have been shocked because it took him 3 seconds and the wrong initial hand motion before signaling for traveling on the pass in. Because the shot clock is 35 seconds, teams have way too much time to bring it up and stand around and then eventually get into a play. They also run a pick and roll twice to Baker, who isn't a huge threat off the bounce, but it does trigger a weak side fill and a post up for the roll man. On a long rebound, Kentucky doesn't talk on defense. Poitras picks up Cotton and Harrison is way too slow picking up Baker. Look at the gorgeous 2-inch hop, quick, explosive, and splash. Not enough coaches run out of bounds plays for scores, and this nice set gets a back screen for a layup, but the inbounder's man does a nice job to take it away. The positioning is off on the strong side. As Baker comes around the screen at the elbow, the natural thing to do is switch, which is what Kentucky does, and the way to take advantage is to have the screener dive to the rim. However, Wichita State has another player in the way, taking away that cut, and ultimately leads to a 5-second call. Kentucky likes to run a lot of two-man action, and when the Shockers allow them to use the screen, there is no weak side help, but Kentucky cannot capitalize. While it appeared the ball was off of Kentucky, on second look it's possible it ricocheted off the head of Wiggins. The Shockers mix it up a little bit by going zone, and Kentucky uses a nice cutter to suck the weak side defender in. On the great pass from Randall, Harrison uses the hop for a quick release 3. Wichita State got away with a travel when Early establishes his right foot as the pivot foot on the catch, then picks it up to pivot with the left. The Shockers get stagnant, and when they miss this shot on the pass out from the post, the referees inexplicably call a foul on the Shockers when it should have been their ball off of Kentucky. Again, the Wildcats run a screen and roll with nobody in the corner, taking away any weak side help. The lowest defender needs to rotate over to help, but he stays home, and Kentucky extends their lead with this alley-oop dunk. And this play must have gotten NBA scouts out of their seats as Julius Randle displays serious ball handling and finishing skills. However, he does hop on his spin, which should have been called a travel, and he should finish off both feet by bringing his left foot around and exploding off of 2 feet strong. I really liked how the Shockers ran their offense, and this is a cool modification of flex, where they set a back screen, then a down screen. The cutter to the hoop sucks in the weak side defender to help, opening up a skip pass right on the money for another shot, perfectly using the hop. We talk about helping one pass away and how that always opens up a 3-ball. Well, it also gives up backdoor cuts as they get perfect action here. However, when you have a guy like Julius Randle, Kentucky can just erase its defensive mistakes. Kentucky's offense doesn't have much flow, and after the initial movement, it tends to break down quickly. After missing an easy pass to Randle down low, it just becomes somebody screening for the ball and hoping for the best. Because their spacing becomes poor, Wichita State has no problem containing them and keeping them far out on the perimeter as the shot clock winds down. However, improbably, they luckily hit this 3 off the glass. Here's another very clever offensive set that involves everyone on Wichita State. Early cross screens for Baker, putting Randall to sleep, then flare screen for Early to get another gorgeous hop 3. Another cool set that has a double cross screen for Early. The second screener cross screens again for a low post cut. Kentucky probably thinks this is the play to get the ball down low, and Early uses the ball fake to get a step of separation before hitting yet another 3. Looking like Melo, Early goes from nailing threes to posting up, and after great footwork to get the open jump hook, clearly gets hit on the arm but doesn't get the call. Down 1 and needing a bucket, they smartly isolate early in the post since he's the hottest guy in the gym. And he just rises up and nails the face-up 17-footer. Now with the lead, they very wisely put on a soft press to make Kentucky take their time and get the shot clock involved. Better still, they switch to a zone, which also gets Kentucky stagnant. However, when the big man cuts through the zone, Wichita State's guard stays with him for way too long, ultimately getting him out of position enough to allow a quick pitch to James Young, who can shoot this 3-ball in rhythm and nail the crucial shot. Again, the Shockers do a nice job utilizing the screener to attack, since he's the most dangerous person in weak side screening action. When Van Vliet flashes into the lane, it collapses the defense, gets a wide open 3 using the hop, but they can't knock it down. Down 4 with less than a minute to go, Wichita State runs a symmetrical flare screen set. Early is supposed to turn and set a down screen for Baker, but instead gets in the way. Didn't matter as Baker banks in the 3-ball and perhaps even got hit on the elbow on the release, but with no call. Needing to foul with less than 35 seconds left, the Shockers smartly try to get a steal first, but are forced to foul Randall, a 70% free throw shooter. And Randall proves clutch as he nails them both. Down 3, the Shockers run one of my favorite actions, a dribble pitch into an inside ball screen. A flare screen on the weak side is designed to get a 3 for Baker, but why aren't they running action for Early, who's clearly on fire and should be their number 1 option? On the quick release missed 3, Early doesn't give up and gets fouled on the offensive rebound. After making both, the Shockers must press and foul if they don't get the steal. Watch Harrison get away with a pretty obvious push-off. Of course, Shockers fans wanted an intentional foul after Baker fouled Harrison, but there wasn't anything there to call. With a final chance after Harrison missed 1 free throw, Wichita State sends Early to the weak side with a double ball screen, but the way he cuts, it looks like he was merely a decoy. The split action on top does get Van Vliet open, but the inbounds pass was a beat late. It should have been released so Van Vliet could have caught it right at the 3-point line. As a result, the defense had a chance to close out and harass him into the game-ending miss. So there you have it, sports fans. Kentucky was able to survive a really terrific team in Wichita State. And I gotta tell you, this guy Early reminds me of a young Carmelo Anthony. He was posting up and scoring, then going out to 3 and knocking down shots. I'm not so sure if it was a fluke yesterday or not, but he was really impressive. And his stock draft status should rise considerably if he goes to the NBA. I wasn't understanding why Coach Hoiberg didn't want to go to him down the stretch for those 2 key possessions, considering how well he was making shots under duress. So you should run some action for him and get him some shots, but it shouldn't diminish the quality of team that they are and how exciting their season was, and a lot of kudos to how far they got. And let's see what happens with Kentucky when they go up against an even better team as they get deeper in the tournament. Well, thanks for joining us, sports fans. Lots more coming up, including a lot more breakdowns of NCAA games. And don't forget, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? You in, Isaiah?
I'm in.
Are you in?
I'm in.
You in, James?
I'm in.